for Wild Earth. So this is a show about learning things. It's not called We Study or We Research. It's supposed to be still light-hearted and easy to digest, but still with interesting facts, and so that we pick up things, and because they're interesting, we will remember without actually studying for it. That's the idea behind the show. So, well, when we came up with that, it said, "Don't sweat the small stuff, love it," because we do. Well, I didn't know it was going to be so hot here about the sweating thing, but okay, that's that's more of a coincidence there. Anyway, the idea is that it's not difficult or creepy or snakes are not scary in that sense. They're very interesting in their own regard. So they've got a right to be loved as much as the iconic species like the leopard or the elephant or other things. And we definitely do love them, and we hope that we can transfer that love to all you viewers as well. So today's show, as was announced, is called What's That Bird? And the reason for that is that a lot of people are interested in birds. I myself am quite an avid birder. And as you learn about birds, in South Africa there are about between 900 and 1,000 different species. That can be quite overwhelming. It's like, how can I distinguish all those birds and all those other things? But with just learning a couple of pointers and just starting it, it's actually quite easy to maybe not identify every species of all the birds that look alike, but already make quite a big inroads into bird identification. So that's a bit of what we want to focus on today. We're going to use a couple of examples of 4 birds that you can see on the game drives or at the waterhole here. We're not going to go into detail too much about each bird. The idea is more to give a general overview of how you can actually, what to look for and how to try to identify a little bird. And at the end of the show, we'll have a little challenge for our viewers. It's also 3 birds that you can see here on the game drives or the waterhole. And then it's up to you to identify them, and I hope you will post your answers in the forum for this show. So let's move on. Suppose you're on a game drive with Peter or Rexon, or if you ever come to South Africa and the vehicle is driving on, and you look left and right, and you just see a glimpse of a bird like this. You just see a silhouette. The bird flies off, or the vehicle moves on. As the game drive goes and you watch for the elephants and the lions, there's a couple more that you see, but you don't get quite good looks at it. There might be another one that looks a little bit like this, and then if you go on, you can see this one is pecking on the ground, looking for little food bits, and then on a big branch high up in a tree, you might see a big bird like this. So now you come back and you wonder, what were these birds? I don't know much about birds, how can I see them? But as you probably saw, just even now with the black outlines, you could already actually recognize some characteristics of those birds. And in birding circles, something like that is called GIS, which stands for General Impression of Shape and Size, which I personally think it's a bit a limiting description, because there's much more than shape and size. But that's what people call it, and if they talk about general bird identification, the word GIS, spelled in many different ways, will often pop up there. So let's now put all those birds together here. Let's say you come back to the lodge and you say, what birds did you see? Somebody asked, and they said, well, I saw this one bird that looked like a pigeon. I would assume most of you would have recognized that the third bird from the left looks like some kind of pigeon or a dove. And there was one that looked a bit like a skinny parrot, but with a much smaller beak, the one on the left, for instance. And there was one that looked like an eagle of some kind, and then one, I'm not sure what it was, but it looked like they had quite long tail streamers. So you see, even in picking up those silhouettes, for each of the birds you've already identified a small characteristic. And that can help you in already identifying what family it belongs to, or what species, or what kind of bird it actually is. Even if you don't know anything yet about the color or other things. So, if you look at the left column here, I'm not sure actually where I should point now, but anyway, I think you can just read it on the screen. That's probably the easiest. What we said in GIS was the shape and the size, and that's what we've shown you in the black and white pictures. But there's a lot more if you can see. You can look at the bill, the shape of the bill, even the color of the bill can often give a good indication. The legs of the bird can be quite different. If you look at a big eagle, it's got quite strong legs with big talons. Some of the lapwings or other birds, they have quite long, thin legs. Some birds have really distinguishing color in legs, so there's another thing that you can look at that. And then the general colors of the feathers. Birds one of the nice things about birds is that they have so many colors, and also that they have the coloration and patterns in the feathers, so that can help in identifying them as well. That personally is a bit difficult for me because I'm a little bit colorblind, so especially the red and the brownish ones, for me all become LBJs, which is often referred to as little brown jobs. They all look a bit similar, so that can be quite a challenge. But other things, for some birds, they have a very distinguished call that's very recognizable. We'll discuss one of them in one of our examples. And then another thing to look out for generally is what is the bird doing? It is behavioral pattern, because that can also give an indication of what kind of bird it is. And then where do you see it? Is it in a dense forest? Is it an open grassland? And in which part of South Africa do you see it? Because some similar birds occur, but then one bird would only occur maybe in the east of the country and the other one in the west. So those are all things to look out for. And even if you just see a small glimpse, you probably won't get all of them, but even with some of them you will already be able to at least zoom in on the bird that you want to identify. For instance, have a look at, I just cut off the heads of those birds now, figuratively speaking of course, but you can see they have very different bills, all of them, apart from the size of them. If you look at the starting from the left, that looks a bit like a small parrot bill, and that's something that can be used even to crack nuts or to break open little things. The second one behind that is a little pointy but quite a strong bill, and that's typically a bill that insect eaters have, because they can crack the outer shell of the insect or possibly scorpions that they catch. The third one is the pigeon or the dove, and you can see that it's a thin bill. It's not meant to break open hard things, but it's more to pick out seeds and to pick out bread and all little things. And then the one on the right, of course, is a very strong and heavy pointed beak that can be used to tear flesh off, which is from a bird of prey. So there are lots of things that you can already determine, even if you've just seen a glimpse of the bird and you maybe see what the bill looks like. So that's the way that you slowly, by adding little characteristics, you can zoom in on which bird it is. And sometimes you don't get further than, okay, it was a pigeon, but you don't know which one it was. But that's fine, because knowing that it's a pigeon already tells you a lot about that bird, because pigeons are grouped as a group of birds because they have a lot of similar behaviors. Each species will still have a little different one, but you can tell a lot about a bird already by knowing its family. So the 4 birds that we're going to use as an example and tell you a little bit more about are the grey go-away bird, the Cape turtle dove, the lilac-breasted roller, and the bateleur. Those are actually also the birds that we were shown the silhouettes of. Okay, so let's quickly move on and